Well, I mean, Merlin basically it's a reboot of the Merlin legend, and it's basically before they were famous. So we're looking at we're taking a sort of artistic, we're taking an interesting look of the Merlin legends in that we're looking at young Merlin, young Arthur, young Guinevere, and it was something that was never been done before, and it's just an interesting take on those Arthurian legends. Well, I mean, I think when we originally, Julian and I were developing the idea, that the main thing for us was to make epic action-adventure stories that were self-contained. So we do 13 a series, but each story is self-contained. So it's a mini action-adventure movie. And the most important thing for us was that they were funny as well. So you would have, you have life and death situations, but you also have a lot of humour. And we always talked about the humour of Shrek, and we always kind of talk, each group we go, so it needs that kind of Shrek type kind of humour and fun. And so we're always trying to inject as much fun in it as possible, whilst at the same time have kind of big life and death issues, and then the two should hopefully in each story some way undercut each other. I think it's very, very difficult to cast these high concept shows. English actors are very much rooted in realism and kitchen sink drama, as we call it in the United Kingdom. American actors are much more their acting skill, they're more used to acting in high concept shows with having lots of dealing with that kind of subject matter. So it was very hard to find actors that could have that pace and that kind of like slight tinkle in their eye when they were auditioning. So we met a lot of actors, and we met hundreds of actors to play the part of Merlin. And you just have to keep and young actors change and they get very nervous in auditions. So we met a lot, and then we kept on. Poor old Colin came in it ended up coming about 15 times before we actually signed on the line. So I think that it's all about finding actors that have a broad playing range, so they can do really serious scenes, but at the same time have a real lightness of touch. And I think that's really important in high concept shows, that they have, they can do serious stuff, but they can also flip it and make it funny. Well, for each story we have, Julian and I sit down and we go, right, okay, what's Merlin's dilemma this week, and what kind of magical monster, what mythology we're going to pull from this week. Sometimes it starts off with an image, an idea. Sometimes it starts off with let's do Pixies. We haven't done Pixies. Let's come up with an idea with a Pixie story. And then you weave the creature around Merlin's dilemma, and the story kind of like expands from that.
I'm drawn to any character that has more than what you see on the surface, which is most people really. But when it's written well, it allows you to play with an interesting palette, and a very broad palette. I don't like to paint with tiny strokes. My question at the time was, how young is this going to be played? Because you could play it as a kids show. But I think they've been very clever. They reassured me right from the start, and I think they've been absolutely true to their word that that it's the adult themes, the dark themes run through it just as strongly, and that's, for me, that's the secret of good storytelling, that you can appeal to as broad an audience as you possibly can. It's what Buffy did, and I think the comment that I get from people in the street is, at last, this is a show that I can truly sit down with my kids, my young kids, and watch, and I am genuinely entertained, and so are they. And I love that.
Well, it's funny, when you first read a script, you get an idea of it in your head of how it's going to look and how it's going to feel, and the show's done a lot of growing up, I think. It does take a little bit of a comic view in a lot of situations, and it does have a light-hearted approach, but at the same time they're not afraid to put in an adult episode there every now and again, and really be quite dramatic and focus more on big events for characters. So when you first start in a show, you don't know what's going to be planned, how it's going to pan out down the line. But I'm very happy with how it's gone so far. There's a real mix, as you say, of the comedy and the sort of slapstick, but with deep emotion in there as well. I'm a huge fan of the fantasy genre in general, but also, films like The Princess Bride or Willow, programs, films like that from the 80s and the Indiana Jones kind of almost aspect to it, where it is adventure kind of action packed, but yet there's room for that kind of slapstick humor in there as well. And I'm a huge fan of that. Anything where you can escape from the real world in a way and absolutely zone out, I think that's perfect. It's weird because on paper it sort of shouldn't work. Because you look at it and you go, a young Merlin who is the same age as Arthur in a world where magic is banned and it focuses on Merlin. So it's on paper you kind of go, right, but there's more to it than that. It's a swashbuckling adventure with a heart of gold, because you've got a character in Merlin who's always striving for the good in the most darkest and most evil of places. He believes that there's good there and there's good to be found, and that's a positive thing, you know. And I think that's something maybe with the show differs from a lot of other programs of a similar nature.